Hey, so here is the link. Now that link I'm giving to you again because those people who come later, they don't get it. They don't get the previous links. So I'm giving it to you again. If you click on it, that's what you get. So especially for those people who are new, the first time here, I'll tell you that we're looking at the latest and greatest AI, where I think we are helping people is where we try it. Whatever new announcement, we'll go deeper, we'll look into that. We'll actually try to run that lab until it crashes, and then we'll do something so that it doesn't crash. So it happens that things don't perfectly well work the first time, and next time we do it. In other words, that's a very useful thing. We've been doing it for more than a year, every week, every Friday. If you go down, you'll see what happened before. But sometimes when we're looking at our session, you guys ask more questions, and therefore, what I do is this. I'm preparing for the next session right away, and that will be the next one here. And I'm removing that. That's not what we're going to do. That we will do today. But if you come up with questions, I'll put them here. And so we will not forget and do it next time. All right. So thank you for coming. And I'm giving everybody an opportunity to talk and chat. Here we are. So first of all, there was an interesting announcement from Google about a new open source AI model, and we'll look at that first. Where it will be useful is because I'll show you the source where the announcement came from, and it is a useful source, so let's just go there. Okay, so the source is Philip Schmidt. Philip Schmidt is an interesting personality on his own because he is a very young and very talented engineer. He lives in Nuremberg, Germany, and he works at Hugging Face. He is also very current in all the news, and he tells us this. We will look at that. We will look at that then deeper. So we will try some of the things that he talks about. Okay, let's look. Google released Gemma, and Gemma is an open version based on Gemini. So I pronounce it Gemma, not Gamma, because Gemini is definitely Gemini. Okay, and you can, moreover, try it on Hugging Face, and he tells about how you can use it. So let's look at how you can use it. In your code, you would do this. You would be in Python. You would import OpenAI. So that is interesting because you would think that OpenAI does ChatGPT, and that's all. But OpenAI does offer quite a few open source components. And that is what we're using here. So we open, we create a client, but we are not going to use ChatGPT. Instead, that client, we will use it for the open source libraries that OpenAI gives us. One of them is embeddings. So embeddings are converting your words to vectors. That's the word. Maybe it doesn't reflect what really happens, but it is a word to be used, embeddings, and that's what you can get from them. So we create the client, and then we are creating a model that will use Google Gemma. Now, how does the code know that this is what it is? In other words, where is this model? I'll show you. But the code knows it's using this model. And now you can try to ask a question, why is open source software important? So first thing is, let's go. He is on Hugging Face. Anything that's new should be there on Hugging Face. So we too will go to Hugging Face. We go to Hugging Face, and what was the name of the model? It was Gemma, right? Here. It's Google / Gemma 7BIT, but if we search on Gemma, we will probably find it. And also I show you how you usually do it. So Gemma. Okay, there are a few with Gemma, a few of them. Now what this means is that Google published it. What did they publish? 7 gigabytes or terabytes of the open model now. Now it's become open. And what it does is continues your sentence. You start with something and it tells you, for example, you try it right away. You say, how does the brain work? And then it goes to tell you. And so on. So it's one of the chatty models that begin spitting out lots of text and response. And not only that, if you are on Hugging Face, you can try it right away. So you see, I'm trying it right away. Now, another thing that happened there, when Philip published his blog post here, somebody asked him, how can I try it? That's what they asked him. Where is the simple AI UI that I can use? And he gave us a link. He said that would be the link on Hugging Face. I think it goes to the same place. Yes, it is the same place. So again, you can try any model, and if it is a contributor to Hugging Face contributes the computing resources, and you can try it there. But, okay, so I just asked, now let me try again. You are used to ChatGPT, and when Google contributes that, you're trying to see, so what's new? Why? Why did they have to do it? And I think that somewhere I was trying it. My question is, does it remember anything? It chatted all it wanted, but what if I want to ask more precisely? So I don't think there is a way. I'm not going to find it again, maybe, but I'll tell you what happened in my experiment. I said, you mentioned music somewhere. So what did you say about music? That just to verify, does it know or it doesn't know what it said? No, it doesn't. Now, ChatGPT, of course, does know. And there are multiple labs that I showed you where you can include memory, include what was said. And no, these models don't have it. Now let's go back. I'm trying to wrap my head around it here. And let's just go back to where we were. So that's what Philip was saying. That was the official announcement. So Google joins others who are trying to compete with OpenAI. And one of these others are the Facebook. They tried it by contributing their model. It's Llama. So now you know that if you want to include the model for free in your local setup, perhaps so that it doesn't go out and doesn't contribute to OpenAI anything, you can use that, or you can use Llama. You also know that ChatGPT beats them all, and that's my personal opinion. So why do companies give you a weaker and obviously not as performing as ChatGPT? Well, let's guess. They want to be also seen. They want to be in the run, and I would give that as the only explanation. Now here, one of the things that we discussed was the leaderboard. So let's try if we can find Okay, here's a leaderboard for LLMs. Let us use it. Well, here's the LLM leaderboard, and pretty much right away, you see that ChatGPT is on top. Now, the claim here is that that is the public opinion, that public contributes to these numbers. That is something you would need to ask this Toloka and verify. But I'm leading to this, guys. I personally would only use ChatGPT and nothing else. That's my personal opinion because I want my products to be very good. The fact that they will cost something is okay because we're not doing fun exercise for free. We're doing some kind of useful systems, and here are the numbers. So back to the question, why would you publish these open models? Well, you also want to be in the run. I remember how, who was it? The inventor of word to vec. Inventor of word to vec. Thomas Mikuloff. How he was first made famous by his invention, and now every Pinecone and every other database that's searching by the meaning of words and not by keywords is using his algorithm. Note, please, 2013. So, okay, he left Google, he went to Facebook, and I asked him, just barged in and asked him on LinkedIn, so why are you at Facebook and what are you doing there? And the official, he was making a general AI, that famous generic AI that everybody was thinking it's a dream. Now, more or less, everybody says that ChatGPT is that because it talks in 100 of languages. It remembers what you said. It's very convenient, and we know what it took. And they are the only one. Nobody that I see, nobody can compete with their model. So you guys correct me if I'm wrong. Then just real competitor to ChatGPT, and I mean real, as opposed to just a claim like Llama that you can put it on your local CPU or GPU, or Gemini, which in my opinion is started with a false start almost 2 years ago and keeps doing false starts. And I hope nobody sues me for that because it's my personal opinion, but I don't see anything. I'll leave it open. Maybe you will come up with something that is, and you can investigate on that deeper. I think what I wanted to do is to show you that you do come back to Hugging Face. Hugging Face has a lot of very useful things. For example, data sets. And we'll come back to their data sets. That's not just data, not at all. It's a library. You install this library. From then on, you can download any data set, parse it right away. You can put it back, contribute data sets. It's very convenient. I'll show you how we use it. So it's still great. It's just that I personally don't understand what's the usefulness. Of course, I just gave you the reasons. We're also in the run. People should pay attention to us. But I then asked Thomas Mikolov, so did it work out? He started in 2015. And how come every other company missed this whole AI stuff until 2023 when OpenAI released it? Well, they asked Sam Altman, and he answered, well, we just had our eyes on that goal. We believed in it. Also, $8 billion from Microsoft helped. And we know the story. So here, I think I said enough and you guys can contribute. I'm going to, first of all, look at the chat. Okay, Swapna, how is Gemma better than the other embedders? Okay, they compete. And so far, it just came out. You can look at the quality of Gemma, which is based on Gemini. My personal experience is that yesterday I got an invitation from Google. Do you want this Gemini to be part of your workspace? And I said yes, because I need to know, even if I pay $14 a month. Well, my personal experience was this. I couldn't figure out where it is. I couldn't figure out how do I set this subscription and how do I cancel it. And I couldn't figure out anything. I'm amazed, but that wasn't easy at all. So what's the advantage of doing this? Well, theoretically, it's indeed more security because you can run everything completely locally. You are not giving that to OpenAI at all. Even though they promise, depends upon how is your contract formulated, that you are not giving it to them and that they're not using it, but in truth you are. And we know how much you can tell about the person by his history of search, and just as much or maybe more here. I just recently saw an interesting discussion. A lawyer says that a lady was driving, probably, I think, drunk, and then she hit somebody and immediately went home and started asking ChatGPT how to hide it. Well, and the police saw it. So the question that on the discussion was, the lawyer says, don't talk and don't search. And legal advice maybe is good, right? But she should use the local models, maybe. That's why you could do it. But for every other application, and just look at the number of startups that come to Sam Altman's when he was traveling around the world. And in my opinion, unless you have a very pressing reason to use these models, I don't see that. Now, there is CGIS, there's a regulation for criminal computer systems, what they can do, but I see that's being relaxed. CGIS or no CGIS, but they seem to be open to accept ChatGPT as part of the system. For example, if you put it in the government cloud, okay, that's already almost does it. So sorry, I cannot promote this. Maybe we'll try to find. Maybe I started putting this in the next session. Maybe what's the use of Gemma? So let's discuss right now, no encouraging use, not useful for anything, and that's what I see. Okay, now I want to stop for a while, stop share, then mute myself, and see if you ask any questions.
Just so you're aware, I think you're putting it under March 1st, or is that you're saying you're going to revisit it on March 1st under your notes?
Okay.
Just trying to follow.
Yes. This is today, February 23, right? As far as I remember. Right. I'm also making a copy for the next session. And I'm inviting you guys to ask questions and put them in there so that next time I prepare, I have your questions already.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
This
you.
is my first time here, so that
okay, that's great. Yes, I'm putting it here for the future. But we are right here, right now, and I apologize that that's not a deep enough look. I started looking at it. Maybe I will look more and answer your questions about why Llama, why Gemma, and why all the competitors. What chance do they have? And of course, they have at least that chance that they are an alternative and all the other blah, blah, blah. Very good. So let's see Who said what on chat? Well, quantized version of Gemma, do you mean it's stripped down? Okay, hi, I'm also says questions if follow and they speak on the phone.
Do you want me to ask my
And the
question?
screen. Yes, please.
Oh, I put it in the chat.
And where is it? Let's see.
So you were showing on Hugging Face those data sets.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to like take those data sets and sort of, use them to be an API or a plugin so that
Yes,
it,
that's what I will show you in a minute.
oh, okay.
That's exactly a great question. We're coming to this. So, 8-bit weights. In other words, you, Paul, you want to load it on your little phone, right? And then you want a trimmed down, a light version, and I don't know yet. We know that there is a paper by Apple how they absolutely trimmed down. It's not only the data that trimmed down, but also the computation, and they have the special algorithm and approach that would allow it to run on the Apple phone. Okay, that's later on. Now, we're here, and I wanted to look at the Pinecone with AI. It's found right here. In fact, I'm looking at that lab. I can show you where that is on our repository so that it's complete. And I apologize for not having done it. Wow, it doesn't let me. In, now it does let me in. Okay, so it's right there. And that is the lab. So I collect a lot of AI labs here in one source, and they're open because most of the sources for them are also open. So it wouldn't make much sense to hide them, but it does make sense to put them all in one place. That's where this is, and in particular, we'll be looking at that one. Okay. So I'm giving you the link here in case you want to run the code, and why it is valuable is because it wouldn't run out of the box. But I made sure that it runs for me and therefore for you. So I'm starting showing you the lab. That's the link. But I'm starting it to show locally. So what I'm doing is I'm starting terminal. In the terminal, I go to the appropriate directory. So in this case, it is this directory. And then I go into OpenAI, that OpenAI labs. And then I need to switch to that environment, which has all the packages installed. So I call it conda activate AI. And that way, here are all my packages. You can go and list all the packages, but I can assure you that I put all the packages that I install in here in this OpenAI environment. And then all you do is Jupyter start. Well, I already did that. I already started Jupyter. So it's right here. It's running for you. And the two labs that I want to show you are these. So we're in Pinecone Labs, and Pinecone is a smart database. It allows you to ask the question by meaning and not by keywords. So lab number one is doing exactly that. Do it by meaning, and now lab number two is we'll get the answer back. So I'll go step by step because you really need to go step by step to understand it and make it useful for you. So we'll start and we will clean it up. We'll say clear output. And what we're doing here is showing you examples I did it to the 2. Now let's start with 1. Showing you examples of how you use Pinecone. And it's an enterprise strength code. You can copy that and use it, and you're sure that you're using the best practices. So first of all, he prefers not to show any warnings, and that's good. But then he imports these packages. Now, this sentence transformer is one of the things you would have to install. That is a Hugging Face package. The rest are little things that are his own, and they are right here. So if you're looking at the course, it's under in course, you would have to say file open and you will see them, but you won't need that because if you clone my lab, then you will have it and I gave you the link. So let's import it and it should all import, should give you no errors here. And then you're preparing the interesting thing. You're using the Pinecone package, but you're also using what's called serverless spec. So serverless spec by itself, it's nothing special. It's a very simple object. It's no magic. But serverless spec hints at the fact that we are going to use some magic, and that is, it used to be that you had to have a new virtual machine. Every index meant that you're paying another $70 a month, and it's running on a machine. Now they made it serverless. Now you can have your indices stored wherever, but not on a separate virtual machine. And that's why we're paying attention to the serverless. That will be a cheap way to go. And in fact, if you don't use it, you don't pay anything at all, not like $17. That's a very interesting package. If you're not familiar with that, that inserts a progress bar. That's all it does. So instead of just looping through a collection in Python like you usually do, with that, you will be looking through a wrapper around your loop, and it will show you the progress. So it's useful. And that is the answer to your question, Christina. What happens here is that I'm looking for a dataset called Quora. That dataset is found on Hugging Face. So right now, I'm getting it from Hugging Face. Let me show you where it is. I'm going to Hugging Face, and I'm looking in the datasets, even though that's a universal search. It searches for models and datasets and users. So I think it's better to search here. Okay, Quora. It's this one because it's called that way and no prefix before. So let us look at that. That's the data set that's residing on Hugging Face, and we're going to read it. So the first fact is you can investigate the data set, and you see that every element contains 2 questions. That is an open question. I do not know why it has 2 questions and not 1. I hope to discover it one day. But the lab works, it somehow works with 2 questions, not 1. So it maybe tells you why. It gives you the size, gives you the number of lines. Somewhere it should tell you how many lines. Okay, number of rows, 404,000. All right, so how do you use it? You do this. You just simply say, load this data set.
What made you choose Quora? Like, what is
Oh, I am
what does it do? What
following,
is it for?
I'll tell you. I'm following, first of all, an example that is from Pinecone. So I'm doing what they are doing. So the very first thing is that it is on Hugging Face, that they chose it. It is on Quora. It is big enough. They are going to use it as an example to store all of the data. All these questions will go into their Pinecone, and they show how you put it into Pinecone. Is that your question?
Yeah, I think I need to learn JavaScript right now because I don't even know what Pinecone is.
Yes. And we did go through that, yes, but I'm sure you'll have a success if you just learn about it without all the things that we did in our webinars. Just learn about Pinecone, why it is. It's a database. It allows you to search things based on meaning, and that's enough for now. Now, I'm not only getting quorum, but I'm getting from row 240,000 to 290,000. That's just because an example. I want to show you how it works. And what it does is looks in the cache so that I don't have to do it every time. But let's show. It says that it is found right here. So I can, first of all, see cd.cache Hugging Face. That's what it's doing invisibly, but if I don't look at that, then it's very theoretical or magical. So I delete data sets. Now, if I ask for that, it should download it. Let's try it. It is downloading it, showing me the progress. And now you begin to see usability of datasets library that comes from Hugging Face. They store the data and they also give you the library to access that. How nice. So Hugging Face, from here you see it's a good tool for a data scientist. Whether or not you are using a specific model, LLM, that's later. So now that it found it, and it tells me honestly, that's where I have put it. I can run it again. And now it will say, oh, I found it. Very nice. And it's much faster. Now, let us look at what this data set is. Let's look from the first row to the fifth row. Now, the indexing in Python are from 0 to 4, so really colon 5 means from 0 to 4, but let's look at them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's not 5. So it's I can't understand. If it is 0 to 4, then it should be 5. And if it is 1 to 5, it should be 5. And I have 4, so I have to explain it as starting from 1 and not reaching 5. Probably that's what it means. But the data itself shows those two questions. We know that each entry, each row has two questions, very different questions that somebody asked on Quora at a certain point of time. And that's all we need. We need some kind of big collection of data. So we see it, we print it, and we can continue. Now, some manipulations with the data so that we take away the extra information, the key, which is text, and then the IDs, which we don't want. We just want to stay with this text. That's what we do. We're asking for, oh, give me only the text and put that in my new array right here. Now, the next is we want to see if on our computer we have GPU or no. GPU, its presence will be denoted by CUDA, the CUDA library, and we run it here just to verify that, sorry, we don't have any CUDA. Now, I see questions, right? But I will do this. I will continue with that lab, and then we'll look at the questions. So here you are verifying if I have GPU or no. I do not. So it will be a bit slower, but we are using a sentence transformer. That is where this package from Hugging Face comes in. Remember, we use the sentence transformer. What does it do? Well, it takes our sentences and converts them into vectors. Now it will be ready. Let me get back to where I was. Now it will be ready to push it into the database because it needs to convert our sentences to numbers, to vectors. And in other labs, you would see a different library, different model to do this. You would usually see the model that you get from OpenAI. But being that is all about open source and promoting open source and surreptitiously and clandestinely promoting their idea of open models as being better or feasible, they use the open source library for that too. That actually is itself a model. It doesn't just convert your sentences to numbers, but it is trained to do it in a smart way. That's why it is a model and not just an algorithm. But we get this model by downloading it from here. So that is also a model. If I go to Hugging Face, I should be able to find it. Let's go to Hugging Face, into models, and here we should be able to find it. That's Phil Schmidt. Maybe that is the one because there are a few other versions of that. I would also be looking for the one that probably is the one because it comes out of the library, sentence transformers. So we can look at what it does, how you play with it, and that's all the same source, Phil Schmidt, so it makes sense. But we're going back to where we were, and we understand what they are showing us. I'm coming to an interesting place. So that's an explanation of what you do with that. So, for example, you want to know which city is the most populated in the world. Spoiler, you will not know. Instead, you will find similar questions. So this semantic search is only step number one, where you find relevant information. It also tells you what's the size of the vector, 384. That's a big number, but usually we're talking about much, much more. Like 1,500, that's about the size that OpenAI gives you. So now you set up Pinecone by giving the key. Why it works? Because I went to Pinecone, I created the key. So there is a key here. I can show you right here. Okay, it doesn't, but I should erase it because if I commit it like that, then it will immediately sound an alarm and delete that key and wreak havoc. Now the thing here is, don't read it. What it does, it creates a temporary index with a random name just so that the lab should work. So don't pay any attention on how we create a new index and delete all the old ones. What is interesting is this. That's the key. So we will it just cleans up the previous indices. Done. Now we're going to push our data. That's the most interesting production enterprise streamed code because they are not doing one vector at a time. They're sending 200 vectors and they are going through the loop. That is a pretty simple loop. It goes by batch size. So if you just print that, you will see 0, 200, 400, and so on. They form a 200 vectors batch and zip it up because it would be too much. So it's conveniently provided for you here. And that's the most important lesson that you can get from here. Now, I additionally printed a lot of stuff so that you can see it. How come it's a real embedding. That's the numbers that these embeddings are generating. But where we want to go is right here. And that is running it. So you see you have, 100,000 rows broken into 200 row batches. So it looks like that's probably right around, and it was wrapped in this TQDM. That's why it shows me the progress. All right, so I hoped to also show you the trivial augmented generation, and that is where we will actually ask questions. So we are running out of time. I'll show you just the most important line there. The same story. You do the same. You get the data, and the only thing is that pay attention to this. If you don't have the data, they prepared in the Dropbox for you, you can get the data. Well, I found that I don't want to rely on that data. I copied it out of their stuff, but I put it into my local drive. So I changed it here. Instead of looking for wiki CSV here, I am looking it from here. And that is because, either way, it's a pretty big data set. That's around a gigabyte. And I tried to push it into GitHub. It was too much, and I shouldn't do this, even if I can. So that's what I wanted to show. First of all, data, and secondly, that is where you put the data into Pinecone in the same way as we have it here. It's still putting it into Pinecone. And the second is you're asking a question. Now, which model are they using here? Okay, and they are using ChatGPT after all. You can use your model, but you see that's what they're doing. Well, that is Deep Down Lab. You can have it. It's that link. Here. And that is more or less going through the depth. So what you can do if you want, you can try to run it. That's really teaching you how to do it. I tried to run the lab, of course it crashed, and that one I tried to run, it runs. Now it's up to you. So that's what I promised. And that is some interesting announcement on Casify, one of the AI projects that I'm running. But I have another webinar right after this one. And instead of talking about its news, still minutes thunder, I'm giving you that. That's that other webinar. Now, you probably will not go there, but instead I'm putting it on chat. But instead you can go there and register. And if you register, you will be getting a recording. So that's the announcement. That's where you register. That's the Zoom. Okay. So it's, in other words, whatever I show you here, how I implement it, that is what is practically done in the next webinar. Okay. So stopping the share and stopping, let's see, and stopping my talk. And looking at what you guys said, link to the next webinar, I just gave it to you on chat, or maybe it didn't go to everyone. So again, you may not jump into it right away, but you may register, and then you will get the recording. And I'm looking through what you said, and thank you for helping me and taking care of all the questions and the links. Notebooks are shared, and they are shared in these labs, the open lab. What version of Python, Paul asks, it is 3.10, 3.9 and 3.10. They will work in both. I'll tell you if I do calendar. Yeah, then Python. But what I can do, you see 3.9. What I can do is run the listing of all the packages here for your documentation. I think I'll put it in there. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. Sorry that I have to go to the next one, but that's also good. So be well, have a great week, and thank you for coming.